mails are going into spam. So how your email or inbox is deciding, or how Gmail is deciding whether this mail should go to your inbox or this mail should go to spam folder. So these things can be done using machine learning algorithms. Then let us discuss about data. So data, we can say we can divide data as training set and test set. A training set is used to estimate the model parameters. A training set should be representative of the task in terms of feature set, should be as large as possible, and should be well known. Test set is used to evaluate the estimated model. The testing set should be disjoint from the training set, should be large enough for results to be reliable, and should be unseen. Means training data, in case of training data, we should understand that training data should be as reliable as possible. Okay, and that data should be labeled. But in case of test data, that test data should be unseen. Then supervised learning process. Learn a model using the training data. Testing, test the model using unseen data. So here we need to define accuracy. Accuracy is nothing but number of correct classification divided by total number of test cases. If you see the figure, there is a training data, then learning algorithms, then based on learning algorithms and training data, you develop a model, machine learning model. Then you apply test data to find out the accuracy of your model. After that, let's discuss about some performance measures. How will you measure the performance or develop algorithms or develop model? The last considerably important part is the evaluation. Useful to consider confusion matrix, also known as contingency table. So this is the confusion matrix where actual versus predicted. If you see over here, positive and negative. True positive means your algorithm is classifying a positive as positive, means yes as yes. Then false negative means your algorithm is classifying false as true, means no as yes. Then false positive means your algorithm is classifying false as false or no as no. Then true negative means your algorithm is classifying false as true or no as yes. So this is called confusion matrix or contingency table. Then other performance measures are just like accuracy. The proportion of the total number of examples that are classified correctly divided by the total number of examples. So accuracy is nothing but total negative plus total positive divided by total negative plus false negative plus false positive plus total positive. So this advantages over this accuracy term is nothing but accuracy doesn't cater the difference between error types, whether this is false positive or false negative. Then precision. It is defined as the proportion of selected examples that are classified as correct. So precision is nothing but total positive divided by, true positive or total positive, true positive divided by true positive plus false positive. Then recall. It records the proportion of correct examples selected. That is nothing but total positive divided by true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. So let's have one example. Suppose an emergency room is in a hospital measures some variables, e.g. blood pressure, age, etc. of newly admitted patients. But based on these data sets, a decision is needed. What decision is needed? Whether to put a new patient in an ICU or not. Due to the high cost of intensive care units, those patients who may survive less than a month are given higher priority. So problem: to predict high-risk patients and discriminate them from low-risk patients. Suppose somebody is saying that, can you give me a module? Based on that, we can decide which patient we should enter to ICU, or some of the patients who are having low risk, we can just give them in a hospital room, not allow into ICU. So for that purpose, we need to decide in two categories: high risk and low risk. So high risk and low risk, how will you decide high risk and low risk? So based on the past experience, as the historical data. Historical data means features. Features could be blood pressure, age, temperature, he has some other disease or not, is that disease is very severe. All those kind of data Based on that experience, we can develop a machine learning based module to classify these patients into two categories: high risk and low risk. So the second example is a credit card company receives several applications for new card. Each application contains information about an applicant: age, marital status, annual salary, outstanding debts, credit rating, etc. So now, problem is there, means problem for us as a technocrats, that can we develop a model based on machine learning algorithms that after filling this data, that model decides whether that bank or company should process the credit card or not. So to decide whether an application should be approved or not, data is nothing but applications of applicants. Task predict whether to approve or not. Performance measure is accuracy. So based on your model, based on the past data, you can test data, you can decide the accuracy of your model. So as your accuracy is higher, then the chances of error or defaulters will be very less. And if somebody asks which algorithm, which machine learning algorithm works better for which data, so nobody can judge this. And this can be very well defined by no free lunch theorem. There is a theorem that is called no free lunch theorem or lunches theorem. So in machine learning, there is something called the no free lunch theorem. In a nutshell, it states that no one algorithm works best for every problem. As a result, we or one should try many different algorithms for the problem while using a whole out test set of data to evaluate performance and select the winner. So we have to try different existing machine learning algorithms on a same data set and see which algorithm is giving the better results. Then classification settings. So in case of classification settings, we have data, a set of data records, also called examples, instances, or cases, described by certain attributes like attributes. Attributes are also called features. Those are x1, x2, xn. And then based on these features, a class is given, a label is given, means each example is labeled with a predefined class y. And our goal is to learn a classification model from the data that can be used to predict the classes of new, future, or test cases or big instances. Means based on the historical data, suppose try to understand in a simple way. Suppose there are 4 varieties of fruits are there: banana, apple, orange, and some other fruit. So based on their color, shape, so many features, you know these fruits having certain features and uniquely distributed in 4 classes. So suppose some other fruit is coming, so just extract those the features of that new fruit and try to match those features with the previously stored features and declare that fruit whether that fruit belongs to these 4 classes or not. So the features are very important, and good features are very important for developing a certain algorithm. Then let's talk about one very simple algorithm that is called k nearest neighbor. K nearest neighbor is very simple algorithm of machine learning. Here you just use a distance measure to find out the new data, whether that data belongs to the existing classes or not. So k nearest neighbor should be one of the first choices when there is no prior knowledge about the distribution of the data. So let us understand mathematically. Suppose there is a x, bold x is nothing but a matrix having a feature set x1i, x2i, xni, denote an input samples with n features I equal to 1 to m. Then let w is nothing but reference to class for training samples x, where c is the total number of classes. Let x be a new sample whose class is to be predicted. Then between sample geometric distance, so the Euclidean distance between sample xi and xj is given by, as we all know that, how can we compute simple Euclidean distance. So based on Euclidean distance, we can make a decision rule. With one nearest neighbor, the predicted class of the new sample X is set to equal to the true class W of its nearest neighbor, right? Suppose there are 2 points and the third point we want to know whether this third point is near to the first point or second point. Then the simple formula is that just you compute Euclidean distance, which with 1 and 2, if D1 is lesser than D2, then the third one will be nearer to the first. If D2 is less than D1, then the third one will be nearer to the 2. So this is a basic simple principle behind K nearest neighbor. So with K and N, K nearest neighbor, the predicted class of the new sample X is set equal to the most probable true class among K nearest training samples. So you can choose this value K from 1 to N. So suppose an example, suppose we are choosing the value of K is 5, then over here, if you see in the figure, there are 3 classes, and the goal is to find a class level for the unknown example Xj. So we use K equal to 5 numbers. Of the 5 closest numbers, if you see in the figure, 4 belongs to W1 and 1 belongs to W3. So Xj is assigned to W1, the predominant class. Means number of samples belonging to W1 class are more than the number of samples belonging to W3 class. So the new sample is more likely to be from the W1 class. Then accuracy. We can calculate accuracy over here. Let X test be a test sample and W test be its predicted class. Once all the test samples have been classified, the classification accuracy is given by sum CWW divided by N total, where CWW is diagonal element of the confusion matrix and N total is the total number of test samples classified. Then feature transformation. So this feature transformation, I think every student must have done that. Just remove the mean and the divide by standard deviation. So this is also called feature cleaning or feature transformation. Till this point, do you have any question? Are you getting my voice? Hello? Hello?
Hello. Sir.
Till this point, any question? Okay. Should I go ahead?
Okay, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's discuss something about Bayesian learning. And Bayesian learning, this is actually a probabilistic approach, and everybody likes very much. So importance of Bayesian learning is that Naive Bayes classifier is one among the most practical approaches for classification. Bayesian methods provide a useful perspective for understanding many learning algorithms. What are the difficulties over here? Difficulties over here are Bayesian methods require initial knowledge of many probabilities and significant computational cost required to determine the Bayes optimal hypothesis in the general case. So everybody must have read about this Bayes theorem, because in class 12 there is a Bayes theorem. So given the observed training data D, the objective is to determine the best hypothesis from some hypothesis space H. Best hypothesis is considered to be the most probable hypothesis given the data and any initial knowledge about the prior probabilities of various hypotheses in the hypothesis space H. This is what Bayes theorem. In Bayes theorem, if we go notation wise or mathematically, suppose PH, this is a prior probability, means you can say this is the initial probability of given hypothesis H, and PD is the prior probability of the data. Then P D given S, this D given S is called conditional probability, means the probability of D when H is given. So the conditional probability of observing data D given some space in which H holds, Now we try to find out, or we are interested in finding out PH given D. That is called posterior probability. That H holds given the training data. So we can compute posterior probability PH given D by Bayes theorem. This is nothing but PH given D is equal to PD given H multiplied by PH divided by PD. So this is a simple Bayes theorem. And let's understand about what is maximum posteriority and maximum likelihood. Some people call the ML is like maximum likelihood estimator, MLE. So maximum posteriority map hypothesis is nothing but this is argument max for given H, P, H given D. Means you have to the argument, the value of H which is maximizing P, H given D. And this is nothing but equal to argmax H, PD given H into PH. So this is maximum a posteriori. What is maximum likelihood? Maximum likelihood is that if we assume that every hypothesis in a given bigger hypothesis space H is equally probable, then H maximum likelihood nothing but argmax H PD given H. Why? Because at that moment of time when we consider the that the H is equally probable, then PH will be nothing but equal to 1. So this is the difference between map and maximum likelihood. Example. Let's solve this example using Bayesian analysis. Consider a medical diagnosis example in which there are two hypotheses. A patient has cancer or a patient doesn't have cancer. Prior knowledge is given. Over the entire population, only 0.8% have that disease. Test result shows that the correct positive result is 98% cases in which the disease is actually present. A correct negative result in 97% cases in which the disease is not present. Okay. So I advise everybody, request everybody to just read this example very carefully. Means prior knowledge is given on the data set that the entire population anywhere, entire population of a village or a city or a country in which 0.8% have that disease. Okay. And test results conducted in any laboratory come on the result. So any laboratory, if tests are conducted, then correct positive result in 98% cases. Means 2% cases we can't say. 90% cases there is a surety that if laboratory saying that is a cancer patient, there is a cancer. But in 2% cases, nobody can say anything. A correct negative result means laboratory saying this person doesn't have a cancer, but 3% cases no. Means that is not also 100% reliable. So based on the new data, can we predict that the probability of cancer in the patient is there, or probability of the cancer is not there? So we can solve this example using Bayesian analysis. So over here mathematically, if you see, P disease is 0.008, and the conditional probability that P positive means report is positive and disease is there. If you see the example, this is 98%. So 0.98. So P positive but no disease. This is 0.03 means 97% cases correct negative. So means report is positive, report is negative, but person is positive, cases are 0.03. The map hypothesis can be found by obtaining P positive versus disease is positive and P disease is nothing but 0.0078, and P positive versus no disease and P no disease is 0.0298. So based on the data, you can say that the map is saying that no disease is there. So these kind of examples can be solved using Bayesian learning. Let's talk about naive-Bayes classifier. What is in Bayesian classifier? Why this is called naive-Bayes algorithm? What is naive in it? what naive assumption is there in naive Bayes classifier? So in naive Bayes classifier, let x1 through xn be attributes with discrete values. The classes are y is equal to 1 to c. Classification is basically the prediction of the class C such that p y equal to c given x1 to xn. X1 to xn are features or attributes is maximum. Okay. So p y equal to c given x1, x2, xn can be written using Bayesian approach. Bayes theorem is nothing but p x1 to xn given y equal to c into p y equal to c divided by p x1 to xn. This is nothing but a Bayes theorem. Now, the denominator p x1 to xn is irrelevant for decision making since it is the same for every class. So this denominator is same for every class, so we can remove it. We only need to understand the numerator term, and the term is p x1 to xn given y equal to c, which can be written as p x1 given x2 to xn y equal to c multiplied by p x2 to xn given y equal to c. Recursively, the second factor above can be written in the same way. Second factor can be written at p x2, x3 to xn y given c similarly like this. So we can write it like by applying Bayesian theorem. So what naive assumption? Naive assumption is that all attributes are conditionally independent given the class y equal to c. If all attributes are conditionally independent, then we can write this px1 given x2 to xn y equal to c is nothing but px1 given y equal to c multiplied by px2 y given y equal to c multiplied by px3 given y equal to c. So this is the product. Okay, this is the naive assumption. That's why this is called naive Bayes approach. And this naive Bayes approach has been used once your email classification, spam or ham, is detected. So for naive Bayes classifier, you can just write p y equal to c given x1, x2, xn is equal to nothing but p y equal to c product of p xi given y equal to c divided by the denominator. So denominator is, so now over here you can predict for any new input feature xi given y equal to c very easily. Now suppose we want to classify a certain instance, test instance. Here if we only need a decision on the most probable class for the test instance, we only need the numerator as its denominator is the same for every class. We have already discussed. Thus, given a test example, we compute the following to decide the most probable class for the test instance. C and B is equal to nothing but argmax C, Py given C, and then product I equal to 1 to n Px I given y equal to C. Now, let's talk about an example. Suppose there is a cars, then that car belonging to certain company. Suppose we have chosen here Maruti, Tata, Honda, 3 companies, and color of the car or vehicle you can say white, red, gray, and white. Okay. So what is the probability? Suppose a new data set is coming. That data set is telling company is Maruti, color is red, whether that car will be sold or not. So based on the historical data, we can say the probability of selling of that car or that vehicle based on the features, and features are company and color. So over here, if you see, you can compute the probabilities. The probabilities required for classification means whether that vehicle is sold or not sold. Okay, probability of the vehicle is sold or not sold. So they are equal probability means sold or not sold 50-50. So P sold is equal to yes and sold is equal to no is nothing but 1/2. Then we have to compute conditional probabilities based on the given data. So if you see probability of car or vehicle is from Maruti, right? Sold is equal to S is what? See over here, Maruti. If you see the color, if you see the Maruti, how many vehicles sold, right? Then this is nothing but 2 by 5. Okay. Next, then probability of a vehicle belonging to Tata and sold is equal to S. If you see the past data, that is also 2 Tata Grey and then Tata Grey YY2, and total number is nothing but 5. So this is the 5. Okay. So in this example, we are trying to find out the probability whether when the company is Maruti and color of the vehicle is red, whether that is sold or not sold. So simply P, we can compute the probability of vehicle belongs to Honda and sold is nothing but 1 equal to 5. Here you can see in the example that Honda 1 Y is there. Okay. In total 5. So 1 by 5. Then P, vehicle belongs to Tata, sold is equal to no, is equal to 2 by 5. Similarly, we can find out all the conditional probability for finding out the classification of the new data, that is company A, color is red, whether that is sold or not. So you can, by applying Bayesian analysis, you can find out, you can calculate. This is very simple, that if P S is equal to Y, P into P, A equal to Maruti, sold is equal to S, P color is equal to red, S is equal to Y is nothing but probability is 2 by 25. Similarly, when in the case of no, probability is 1 by 25. So probability of sold yes is greater than probability of sold no is greater than the, so probability of sold yes is greater than the probability of sold no. So it means the probability of the probability that the car is sold or vehicle is sold is high. So in this way we can tackle problems using Bayesian learning. Then additional issues. Additional issues are coming like smoothing, then categorical attributes. So neo Bayesian learning assumes that all attributes are categorical. Then smoothing means suppose you are computing a probability at one point of time, data is not there for that. The probability will be 0. In that case, over there, suppose probability is coming very small. So in that case, you apply certain smoothing procedure to smooth. So till this point, any question? Any questions from the audience side till this point? Okay, so let's talk about decision tree learning. So in decision tree learning is one of the most widely used techniques for classification. Its classification accuracy is competitive with other methods, and it is very efficient. The classification model is a tree called decision tree. Finding optimal tree is computationally infeasible because of exponential size of search space. Means once we apply decision tree, then the search space is huge. And then there are certain components of the tree. So different components of the tree are the series of questions and answers can be organized in the form of a decision tree, which is hierarchical structures. Over there, one is called root node. Root node means no incoming is 0 or more outgoing edges. Internal node, exactly one incoming and 2 or more outgoing nodes are called internal nodes. Then leaf nodes means an incoming node means one incoming node and then no outgoing node. So suppose there is a company and company is processing loan. So company, suppose somebody is coming to take a loan, then he or she has to fill a form. In that form, that person has to fill like age, job, house, rating. Okay. And based on that, these 4 features, company will decide whether company should give loan or should not give loan. That is called class. Okay. So based on these features, suppose we try to develop an algorithm which automatically tells the company that, okay, based on the inputs given by particular person, you give loan or don't give loan. Nowadays, I am having a discussion with a lot of companies working on financial solutions. They are trying to find out a prototype module based on machine learning and artificial intelligence that if somebody is just asking for a loan, not filling a form, if somebody is inquiring about a loan, so based on his phone number and name, can company have all the information whether that person will pay loan or he will become defaulter. This is a very trivial problem at the point of, if you listen this problem, you will say, suppose I am giving this problem that tell me a software, give me a software which should tell us about a person who is calling to me based on his phone number or his name and his place. Your software should give me that yes, please go ahead and pursue this person for a loan because he will not default. He will pay your loan. And then what question will you ask? You will ask, give me some data. Then I will say, no, I won't give any data. You need to find out the data open source. Data means you can consider the data, phone number, his expenditure behavior through different websites. Nowadays, you must have experienced one thing that suppose in Google you go and search, type a term loan, you inquire about the loan. You won't believe after 15 or 20 minutes, you will get an email from some lenders that this loan is given from us with this % of rate interest. Okay. So these kind of data is available. Why? Because once you install app or you sign in any domain, you download a software, you sign, or you download an app, you sign. So every data is there on open platform. Every company is sharing the data from one another. So at that point of time means your every data on open source platform. So based on that data, can we create an artificial intelligence model for saying that whether that person will be defaulter or will repay the loan. So here we can see that decision tree we can create a decision tree. Suppose age is young, middle or old. This is the first, and then second we can say whether this person is having job or don't have job. Then age is middle, having own house or don't have own house. Then third, age is old, what is the credit rating? So based on this availability of the data, we can create a tree and we can say that for certain characteristics, we give that person loan or don't give that person loan. So this can be categorically defined based on the certain characteristics by drawing the tree-like structure. Is the decision tree unique? No. Here is a simpler tree. If you see over here, there is very complex, 3 branches, all those things. So that's why we people are not using decision trees, because they are exponentially growing. So we can make a simple tree. Simple tree means easy to understand and perform better. First of all, we say that if that person is having own house, true. Nahi, has a job, true. Then yes. If that person doesn't have the own house or doesn't have the job, nobody will give the loan. Okay. Then algorithms. So basic algorithm in case of decision tree that you must have heard about greedy algorithm. So greedy algorithm assumes attributes are categorical. Tree is constructed as a hierarchical structure. At the start, all the training examples are at the root. Examples are partitioned recursively based on selected attributes. And attributes are selected on the basis of an impurity. Conditions for stopping partitioning. All examples for a given code belong to the same class. There are no remaining attributes for further partitioning. Majority class is the leaf, and there are no examples left. Choose attribute to partition data. So first of all, we have to choose certain attributes to make the partition in the given data. The key to building a decision tree, which attribute to choose in order to branch. Then the objective is to reduce impurity or uncertainty in data as much as possible. A subset of data is pure if all instances belong to the same class. The heuristic in C4.5 is a decision tree algorithm where in C4.5 is to choose the attribute with the maximum information gain based on the information theory. Two possible routes, which is better. So in the above example, we can say two possible routes. First route is that we should consider age as a root. And the second is that we should consider own house as a root. Suppose somebody is coming to you and saying that please give me some amount of loan, and that person is having own house, then you will see if that person is having own house, it means he can pay the loan. If he is not able to pay the loan, then he can sell his house and repay the loan. If a person is young, right? If a person is young, means suppose a 25-year-old person is coming and he is having a job and asking for the loan, then you can say, okay, he's having a good job and his earning is quite good, so he will be able to repay the loan rather than not paying the loan. So these are the two possible routes can be taken. Then what are the measures for selecting base split? Now the next split, how can we measure? How can we select the base split? That can be computed as from information theory, that is called gain, or you can say entropy. Entropy T is nothing but equal to minus sum I equal to 0 to C minus 1 Pi given T log 2 Pi given T. Or you can say that some people are computing Gini index, I call Gini index. So Gini T is nothing but equal to 1 minus sum I equal to 0 to C minus 1 Pi given T square. Then we can compute the classification error. Classification error T is nothing but 1 minus max I Pi given T. Over here, Pi given T is a fraction of records belonging to class I at node T, and C is the number of classes. So these are the measures where we can find out the, or we can select the base split. Then entropy measure. Consider the following cases. Suppose in the node T has 50% positive and 50% negative examples. So you can compute entropy T is equal to minus 0.5 log to 0.5 minus 0.5 log to 0.5. It's nothing but equal to 1. The node T, second example, like the node T has 20% positive and 80% negative examples. So entropy 0.722. Then the node T has 100% positive and no negative examples. So entropy T is 0. Means as the data become purer and purer, the entropy value becomes smaller and smaller. So this is useful to us. So we can choose T, node T, based on the entropy calculated. Then information gain. Information gain can be calculated as I parent minus sum j equal to 1 to k nvj divided by n into ivj, where I is nothing but information of the given node, n is the total records at parent node, k is the number of attribute values, and nvj number of records associated with child node. So algorithm chooses a test condition that maximizes the gain. You can again take the example of loan data, entropy D, entropy house D, entropy ASD. So all those cases you can see based on the entropy calculation, you can choose the node. Then we can build a final tree. So we can build a final tree that own house. You see over here, gain D house is nothing but 0.420. Gain D ace is nothing but 0.083. Gain D job is nothing but 0.324. And gain D rating is nothing but 0.363. So gain for house is maximum than the others. So we have chosen this as a root node. So this is own house, true, false, hedge job, true, false. So based on this data, we can say that whether loan should be processed or not processed. So let's talk about handling continuous attributes. Handling continuous attributes by splitting into two intervals can be more at ease mode. How to find best threshold to divide? So use information gain again. Sort all the values of the continuous attributes in increasing order V1 to Vr. One possible threshold between two adjacent values Vi and Vi plus 1. Try all possible thresholds and find the one that maximizes the gain. So over here you can see you can partition the data. Then there is a problem of overfitting. So a tree may overfit the training data if good accuracy on training data but poor on the test data. Okay, you can create a tree to 100% classify a training data, but that tree will be very huge, and for the any new test set that will not be able to classify very accurately. That is called overfitting. So a tree may overfit the training data if good accuracy on training data but poor on test data. Symptoms: tree too deep and too many branches. Some may reflect anomalies due to noise or outliers. Two approaches are there to avoid overfitting. Number one is pre-pruning and the second one is post-pruning. Pre-pruning means halt tree constructions early, difficult to resize because we do not know what may happen subsequently if we keep growing the tree. Then post-pruning removes branches or subtrees from a fully grown tree. This method is commonly used in C4.5, uses a statistical method to estimate the errors at each node for pruning. So over here, this is the example where they have used post pruning. Till this point, do you have any question? Ultimately, what I advise, by going through the slides, you can just understand the name of the algorithm or little bit about the algorithm. But I hope that everyone who is here, who has joined for this workshop, might be knowing Python. If you don't know Python, just go and download Anaconda Navigator. Over there, Python is there. You have to just install and try to practice first, like NumPy and other things in Python, and then start writing some of the algorithms, machine learning algorithms. A lot of libraries are available open source. So nowadays, a lot of developments has been done in developing Python libraries for machine learning algorithms. A lot of algorithms are there open source. So just start developing small algorithms. Then it will be a best for your learning and working on machine learning algorithms. So support vector machine, the very beautiful story behind this support vector machine. People can search on Google the history of support vector machine. Support vector machines were invented by Wapnick and his co-workers in 1970. 1970s in Russia and became known to the West in 1992. After 20 years, means 70 years, in 1970 he developed this uh, support vector machine algorithm, but it came into recognition in 1992, and there is a very good story behind this. In 70 and 1992, everybody should read that story. And this became famous in text classification, text recognition. So support vector machine are linear classifiers that find a hyperplane to separate two classes of data, positive or negative. And kernel functions are used for nonlinear separation. Suppose there is a linear separation, then that is called linear SVM or nonlinear SVM. So nonlinear SVM is nothing that is the same like linear SVM, but over there we use kernel function to project data from one plane to another plane. Okay, suppose in 2D plane that data is not classifiable, then we project that data in 4-dimensional, 3-dimensional, n-dimensional plane, where we can ultimately see the data in clear-cut distinction, and we can classify using linear SVM. So that is over there we use kernel function to just map the data from one plane to another plane. That is why that is called non-linear SVM or kernel SVM. So SVMs are linear classifiers that find a hyperplane to separate two classes of data, positive and negative. Kernel functions are used for nonlinear separation. The support vector machines not only has a rigorous theoretical foundation, but also performs classification more accurately than most other methods in applications, especially for high dimensional data. It is perhaps the best classifier for text classification. So basic concept is that let the set of training examples D be x1, y1, x2, y2, xr, yr. x1, x2, xr are the features. x1 is the data, y1 is the class, x2 is the data, y2 is the class, xr is the data, yr is the class. Where xi, x1, x2, xn is the input vector in a real valued space, n-dimensional real space, and yi is the class labels output, and yi are nothing but either 1 or -1. 1 means positive class, -1 is negative class. You can say 1 is first class and -1 is the second class, like this. So SVM, support vector machine, finds a linear function of the form fx is equal to wx plus b. Wx is the inner product between w and x, where w is called weight vector. So yi is equal to 1 if the inner product w and the feature vector xi plus b is the bias is greater than or equal to 0, and -1 it's the same where w, inner product of w xi plus b, is less than 0. So if you see in the figure, we have to draw a line, a plane, or a plane which is having a best placed plane where these two classes are separated. So the hyperplane that separates positive and negative training data is wx plus b is equal to 0. It is called the decision boundary or surface. So many possible hyperplanes, which one to choose, right? So there could be many hyperplanes. So which hyperplane we should choose, that has to be decided by this support vector machine algorithm. So we have to choose maximal margin hyperplane. So SVM for separating hyperplane with the maximum margin, and machine learning theory says this hyperplane maximizes the error bound. So you can see we have to try to maximize the d minus plus d plus. Okay. So margin is what over here. If you see wx plus b equal to 1 and wx plus b equal to -1 for the support vectors. These x minus and x plus are the support vectors. So linear SVM, in case of a separable case, assume the data are linearly separable. Consider a positive data point x plus and negative x minus as -1. What that are closest to the hyperplane. So for closest to the hyperplane, inner product of wx plus b equal to 0. Now we define two parallel hyperplanes, h plus and h minus, that pass through x plus and x minus respectively. H plus and h minus are also parallel to the inner product of W x and plus B equal to 0. So S plus hypothesis is given W into x plus inner product plus B equal to 1, and the second hypothesis W x minus plus B is equal to minus 1, such that W xi plus B greater than 1 if yi equal to 1, and W xi plus B should be less than minus 1 if yi is equal to minus 1. Now, let us compute the distance between the two margin hyperplanes, means S plus and S minus. That is nothing but D plus D minus in the figure. So recall from vector space algebra that the perpendicular distance from point xi to the hyperplane inner product of Wx plus B equal to 0 is nothing but W xi plus B mod divided by norm of W. And norm of W is nothing but square root of W1 square plus W2 square plus Wn square. So let us compute D plus. So instead of computing the distance from x plus to the separating plane Wx plus B equal to 0, we pick up any point on the hyperplane that is xs on Wx plus B equal to 0 and compute the distance from xs to Wx plus W inner product of x plus B equal to 1 by applying the distance formula and noticing W inner product of W with xs plus B equal to 0. So D plus will be W inner product of W with xs plus B minus 1 norm divided by norm of W. So ultimately, if you see from here, it will be coming out 1 upon our norm of W. Similarly, D minus will also come to 1 upon norm of W. So margin will be D plus D minus will be 2 upon norm of W. So ultimately, this SVM problem comes out like an optimization problem. So definition: linear SVM separable case. Given a set of linearly separable training examples, x1 class y1, x2 class y2, xr class yr. Learning is to solve the following constant optimization problem, where we can maximize inner product of weight vectors, means norm of W square divided by 2, subject to the condition. What is the condition? That yi multiplied by inner product of Wxi plus B should be greater than 1 in both the cases. Okay, in both the cases. So this constant optimization problem can be solved using standard Lagrangian methods. I think if a student are from third year and final year, they must have gone through this Lagrangian method. Okay, because in second year of mathematics, a second year or first year in the mathematics course, they generally read this. So in Lagrangian optimization, this LP is equal to 1 upon 2 norm of W square minus sigma I equal to 1 to R alpha I given constant, okay, where alpha I are greater than or equal to 0 are the Lagrangian multipliers. So optimization theory says that an optimal solution must satisfy certain conditions called Kuhn-Tucker conditions, or you can say KKT conditions, which are necessary but not sufficient. So Kuhn-Tucker conditions play a central role in constraint optimization. So what this Kuhn-Tucker condition says that you take a derivative with each variable. So you compute the derivative with respect to Wj, with respect to B, and then equate them equal to 0. So after taking the derivative and equating them with equal to 0, you will get these expressions. So over here, this is coming out that all the Lagrangian coefficient alpha i's should be greater than or equal to 0. The complementary conditions show that only those data points on the margin hyperplanes can have alpha I greater than 0, since for them yi w in a product with xi plus b minus 1 equal to 0. So these points are called support vectors. All the other parameters alpha I equal to 0. So we have to solve a problem. So in case of solving a problem, in general, Kuhn-Tucker conditions are necessary for an optimal solution, but not sufficient. However, for our minimization problem with the convex objective function and linear constants, The Kuhn-Tucker conditions are both necessary and sufficient for an optimal solution. Solving the optimization problem is still a difficult task due to the inequality constraints. However, the Lagrangian treatment of the convex optimization problem leads to an alternative dual formulation of the problem, which is easier to solve than the original problem, that is primal. So dual formulation of the problem, from primal to a dual, setting to zero the partial derivatives of the Lagrangian with respect to the primal variables IW and B, and substituting the resulting relations back into the Lagrangian. So substitute into the original Lagrangian to eliminate the primal values. So LD is equal to sum I equal to 1 to R alpha I minus 1 upon 2, I comma j equal to 1 to R y I yj alpha j, and then take inner product of xi with xj. So this is over here, we have to maximize LD subject to the constant I equal to 1 to R, yi alpha equal to 0. So this dual formulation is called the Wolfert dual. For the convex of objective functions and linear constants of the primal, it has the property that the maximum of LD occurs at the same values of W, B and alpha I as the minimum of LP for the primal. Solving this requires a numerical techniques. So the final decision boundary, after solving the problem, we obtain the values of alpha I, which are used to compute the weight vector W and the bias B. Once we computed the weight vector W and bias B, constant is given Wx in a product plus B should be equal to 0. So this testing, so for any given test data, given new set test instance Z, we just have to take sine inner product of W, because W and B we know now after this Lagrangian and all those things. So sine of Wz, inner product of that new data with W, with I add the bias, and then if it returns 1, then the Z belongs to the positive class. If it returns minus sign, then that the new variable classified as the negative class. So I think this is more than sufficient. 1 hour 15 minutes for this. Do you have any question over here?
If you have any question, please put in comment box.
If no questions are there, then I have to suggest the students of your institute that they
Sir,
should
one
learn.
student asking one question, Vijay Purohit. What
Okay.
the topic of mathematics we required for the please check in comment box, sir.
Yeah. So the topics required, Vijay, the topics required are, first of all, you should know linear algebra and probability and statistics. These two courses are very important altogether to work in the area of machine learning and artificial intelligence. Because this area is highly mathematical. Until unless you don't know maths, you cannot develop a new algorithm. Somebody is asking, can we use SVM for multiple classes? Yes, you can use SVM for multiple classes. What is the best way to learn cluster analysis? Ramesh is asking what is the best way to learn cluster analysis. Clustering is nothing but unsupervised learning algorithms. You can follow any book because that is very simple and you can do it. There are so many open source videos and lectures are available on clustering itself. Somebody is asking what is the internship in IIT-J for AI. You can apply, you can go and check the profile of the faculty members and write directly to them. If they have the vacancy, they will reply you. Because of this COVID pandemic, internships are a little difficult because there is no movement. But you can associate yourself with any of the professor working in machine learning and AI and work from home. Karan is asking, sir, can we get PDF of machine learning to our email for further reference? Yes, I will send this PowerPoint presentation to Rajneesh, and I will request him to circulate among all of you. Rajneesh, is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fine.
I will send these presentation slides to you, and you circulate these presentation slides among your students.
Yes, sure, sir.
Somebody is asking which is the best machine learning algorithms for sentiment analysis. See, sentiment analysis comes under natural language processing. So nowadays, so many people are talking about LSTM, long short-term memory. That is altogether a different ball game. Okay, you can apply machine learning algorithms, but LSTM nowadays people are using long short-term memory. Somebody is asking for MTech specialization, what should we choose? Machine learning, AI, data science. Ultimately, that depends. This is something like that which you like most and where you work hard. You choose that. Because all three are the hot topics: data science, AI, and machine learning. Altogether, nobody is giving MTech specialization in machine learning. MTech specializations are available in artificial intelligence and data science. Okay. Somebody is asking what is the trade between bias and variance. This bias and variance trade-off is basically a very good research problem. So many people are working on bias and variance problem. Bias and variance problem can be understood, right? If I give you an example, suppose there is a contest, right? वो contest नहीं था, उसको क्या कहते हैं? Most beautiful lady of the world. उसको कौन सा बोलते हैं? Miss Universe and Miss World. Suppose Miss World contest is there, right? In that contest, somebody given as Miss World, okay? And based on the historical data, you try to develop a tool based on artificial intelligence, which can predict or which can give the result of that contest, right? But how will you remove the bias? Because no one has declared a Miss World or Miss Universe based on the digital data or discrete data or analogous data. right? So lot of things are fuzzy because you cannot say that beautiful, how much beautiful, fair, how much fair. So those things are comes under data. So there a lot of people are working on this problem called bias and variance. How can you remove bias and variance from the data itself? Somebody is asking what is the difference between likelihood and probability. I explained you what is the difference between maximum posteriori probability and maximum likelihood.
Hello.
Yes. If no more questions, then should we start?
Sir, we have some question in chat box.
I think I have given answer for the question which are the chat box. Okay, let me scroll there. Okay. Okay, somebody is asking. In one semester, we have AI, and it becomes difficult to approach it as whole without proper mindset and learning. How can we deal with it? How should we approach it? So let me talk to Rajneesh. How many courses you teach? Only AI you teach, or some certain supporting courses are also there? Because AI needs certain supporting courses. Okay. So first of all, try to read those supporting courses and then directly go for AI. Then somebody asked, is blockchain considered AI? Blockchain kind of a security production. Okay. Over there, AI is also considered, right? But blockchain altogether is a game up to applying algorithms. So how can you secure all the process? And these blockchain algorithms are used in case of banking sector now. There's so many people are using blockchain and banking sectors. Blockchain concept itself came from the concept जो नहीं होता है क्या कहते हैं kitty parties. Okay, so that exactly concept came from that kitty party kind of problem. So yes, certainly AI will be required in blockchain. Then somebody's saying that very initiative session thing. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I think we should carry on the session. Actually, we have some time constraint limit also.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Should we stop or should we carry out the session?
If it is completed, then okay, sir.
Yeah, from my side actually. From my side.
Okay,
it's
okay. Any other question from any participants who want to ask anything? Okay, sir. I think I have answered all the questions that they have raised.
Yeah, if
Ma'am?
somebody has certain questions, you can
Yes,
drop
sir.
an email to me. If
Sure, sir.
someone has any other question, then he or she can drop an email to me. I will reply an email also.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you then.
Yes, sir.
All the best.
Thank you so much, Sandeep sir, for sharing such valuable knowledge with us. We are so thankful to you that you managed to give time to us and discuss the training topic of today's lead. And thank you, our participants, for showing so much patience and being a very good listener. So that was all with machine learning now. Would like to inform you that we will having a break and we will again meet up at 1:30 p.m. for the artificial intelligence workshop. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Thank you very much for taking some time from your busy schedule. As we has been in conversation since long,
Right.
but with your busy schedule, sir, we are very grateful to you, sir, and we are looking forward for such kind of workshop or webinar, whichever is
Okay.
possible.
No problem, Rajneesh. Thank you very much, Rajneesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for being a part of our institute. Thank you. Thank you all the participants. Thank you, coordinator Neha ma'am, Mohsin sir,